Hello everyone, my name is Shambhavi. Hope you all are doing well. So today in this particular video, we'll be discussing about the data analyst. Like what does a data analyst do? What are the skills needed out for a data analyst? What's the roadmap for a data analyst? And what are the softer skills as well which are needed for the data analyst, right? These are the respective things which we're discussing up into this particular video. So let me start out with the very first topic, and that's the collection of our data. Just one second. Great. So what I'm going to do is that first of all I'll be letting you know that what does a data analyst actually do up in real, and further I'll be telling you the dependencies and the skills and the rest all of the things. Okay. So let me start out with the collection of the data. Okay. So first of all, the very first process or very first role of a data analyst is to collect up the data. Now, from where the data can be collected? For data can be collected by conduction of some surveys, right? By tracking some web app analytics or by some data sets or the things like that. So the data collection is the very first part. Now into that particular case, what happens that whatever the company you are working in for, so that company actually has its own data. Right, so you start working upon to that particular data which you are actually getting out from the company and the things like that. Okay. So this is the very first method which you do, and that's about the collection of the data. Now when the data is being collected, now let's say you're having up a too large data. Okay, so that too much of large data will be stored up onto a database, right? Next step comes about your designing of the database structures, right? Basically in that database, whatever you are having the data inside the database, you try taking that out, you try putting up some structured query language, SQL, that's you do it out. Okay, you use SQL, that's structured query language, you put up some queries, you try to clean up your data through SQL only. So these are some sort of things which you do in the create the models part. Okay, so this is what is done while creating up your models. Like everything is done, your models, whatever you want to choose out, you choose those particulars. So that's the respective thing that you do. Further, whatever the, let's say now you are having some different databases, and from all of those databases you want to combine those databases, and then further you want to work onto that. Okay, so there you come up with the connections with the interpreted data. Okay, so you try to find up some connections. What are the data you have interpreted, what are the data you have studied about or interpreted, into that you try to find up some connections, so that it could help you in getting up a good context of the data, or good context, or good understanding in that particular case. So you simply try to find the connections with the interpreted data. Okay, now further, when you had found out the connections in the interpreted data, you move on with the identifying of the data errors. Means that, let's say, here is the part where you try to clean up your data. Cleaning of the data means that let's say you are having the data, okay, and into that you are having some empty rows, some empty columns, some things like that. So there is no such need for empty rows or columns into your data. What is that doing actually? That's only and only increasing the number of rows and columns into your data set. Nothing more it is doing, because it's empty, right? So if those are to be removed, you remove them out, or if those are to be filled up with some other values like mean value or anything like that, so you fill up those particular empty rows or the empty columns that we call as null values actually. Okay, so that's done. Now further, it can happen that you are having some duplicates into your data, so you remove up those duplicates as well from your data, because that are not further needed upon when you are trying to analyze your data or visualize your data. So those duplicates are not at all needed into your data, so you try to remove up those as well. Now there is a term which is known as outliers. What does that means? Outliers means that, let's say you are having a data range from 1 up till 100. Okay, whatever the data points you are having up into your data, those are starting from 1 and ending up at 100. Okay, now this is your data range, and between that data range only most of all the data points for you are lying. it could happen that there is some points which are uh, two greater than 100. Let's say those are 200 or 300, some points like that you are having up into your data. Now, when your data ranges from 1 up till 100, then what's the use of your 200 or 300 values? This particular one is not at all needed, right? Because what it is going to do, it is only and only going to disturb up your data. It's only and only going to restrict the accuracy of your data. It's only and only going to disturb up your complete analysis. Nothing more it's going to do, because that's a number which is too far away. So it's simply going to disturb the accuracy of your model. Nothing more than that it's going to do. So what do? You try to remove up those respective values. So that is known as outliers, that you are having some unwanted values into your data. So those unwanted values you try to clean up so that you get the good accuracy of your model. So you try to remove up those outliers as well from your data. So that is what is identifying the data errors that you do up into your respective data. Okay, now after this all of the things have been done out, your last step comes up, and that is your interpretation of the data. Now, interpretation means that you have to find up the trends, you find up the patterns, right? You try to check out that, okay, what is the trend into my data? Let's say you plotted up some graphs, like let's say you plotted up some bar plot, okay? Now, into that bar plot, you try to figure out the trend, that, okay, at what point it was increasing, at what point it is decreasing, at what point it is being average. The things like that you try to plot out, you try to figure out. Yeah, right, you do those out with the bar graphs, pie charts, line plot, scatter plot, bubble plot. You have many here, right? So into that particular case, simply you'd find up the trends and the patterns, and from that you transform that data into some insights. Okay, insightful presentation, you put up all of those respective, combine them, make up a presentation for you, and then you transfer, you communicate whatever the interpretations you have got, what are the findings you have got, to your clients, to your management, to your colleagues, to your stakeholders. So what are the interpretations you have actually got out here? You try to present up those interpretations, present up those data findings in front of the management and rest everyone. So this is what our data analysts actually do. You have up a data, you clean up that data according to many, you are having many tools with the help of those, then you visualize up your data, use up your models, and at last you do up some interpretation on the data findings which you combine up into a presentation, and further you present that into the front of your management. That's what data analysts do. Okay. Now, if I move towards that, what are the skills needed out for a data analyst? So we'll be starting that first of all, knowledge about analytical tools. Analytical tools here I am referring up to the Excel. Okay, I'm referring to the Excel here. Fine, that I'm talking about. Data mining and data auditing. Now this is as well, in this part you simply have some data cleaning and that sort of part. So yeah, data mining and the data auditing, these parts are as well needed up. Fine. Further, you are having up the testing skills, means the testing skills like testing up of your data and testing up of your model. So all those respective testing skills are needed up here. Further, this is the mathematics part, that is your basic statistical skill that is needed up for you. So statistics and probability, the mathematics is as well plays a vital role into your roadmap or into your skills which are needed for a data analyst, right? So especially the statistical ones are very much needed. Then you have to learn about the machine learning models, what is supervised, what is unsupervised. Then further you classify, like classification, regression, many you are having, key means clustering. Okay, so you have to learn about those respective algorithms. Not only learning, but you have to figure out that in what sort of data what type of algorithm I'm gonna apply out. Okay, so for that needs out a practice at your end, that you try to take up some different data sets, some a very different type of data sets, and onto that you try applying some of your models, that okay, this is the model which is settling up here, or this is the model which is working up here. So in that particular manner you can get up a knowledge that which respective algorithm is applied onto what sort of data. Okay, and then next you should have the data visualization. So data visualization, for that you have a tool that's called as Tableau. For that I'll be letting you know the roadmap, then I would tell you about all of those. So that's the Tableau. So yeah, you need to learn about those particular things as well, right? So these are some of the skills which I have talked, not in detail but outline I have talked about the skills for a data analyst. Now let me move towards the roadmap for a data analyst, and there I would be discussing other things into the detail. So when we talk about the roadmap to a data analyst, the very first step is about your learning of your Python programming language. You start with your Python programming. Python programming. So into the Python programming, what do you have to learn? You have to learn everything there in the manner, or that you have to start learning about the different data types. Okay, you have to learn about data types, you have to learn about strings, lists, tuple, dictionaries, right? These are the things which you prefer up you learning into the Python programming. Then you even have to learn about that classes and objects. Into that you have object-oriented programming, classes, objects, method overriding, and inheritance. So these are some few topics in the Python programming. It means that you have to pretty much clear with the Python programming language, like almost all the things like about functions, built-in functions, user-defined functions, many things are there, right? So yeah, you should clear with all of those respective things. So here from basic to the advanced, so completely Python is being covered, right? Now moving towards the next step, you again have the Python, but that's referring to your data structures, DS and algo. Data structures and algorithm, like different types of searching and sorting techniques you are having, right? You have to work upon those. You are having the different types of time complexities, that how the time complexities are actually found out of our respective code, how do you reduce the time complexity, and all those particular things. So yes, that are as well needed out similarly. So data structures and algorithms, that's your second. Now when you're finished up with these particular things, you jump on to the special libraries which you have up in the Python programming, that are NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, Seaborn, and Plotly. So you have these respective libraries which are NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, Seaborn, and Plotly. So what do you do up here into these respective? This NumPy is a numerical library, Pandas is used for data cleaning, Matplotlib, Seaborn, and Plotly. These are used for your data visualizations. Now from here you move on to a very detailed info about the data analyst. From this third step is your main step, from where you start practicing and learning up the things which are actually in real needed for the data analyst. Okay, now after having up the idea of all of these respective things, you move on to your next thing, and that's your data visualization using Tableau. Now instead of writing up these Matplotlib, Seaborn, and Plotly, these sort of codes or making your graphs, you try using up the tool which is called as Tableau or Power BI, whatever you prefer, right? But I prefer Tableau, so I'm mentioning that out. So Tableau is a very vast tool which you can use out for your data visualization. Even it helps you in the data cleaning as well. Okay. So learn about the Tableau. Okay, after learning about the Tableau, then you'll be moving upon to the structured query. No, before the structured query language, you would move towards the mathematics. That is the statistics. Statistics and probability. So after learning about the Tableau, you can jump onto the mathematical things, which are your statistics and CS. You can move on to the statistics and probability, and there you can learn about these Tableau and the statistics and probability mathematical tools. After learning about this, we can move on to the structured query language, that is your SQL. Okay, structured query language, that refers up here. And then comes your ML, that is your machine learning. One second, let me remove up this dash from here because it's not at all needed. I didn't just put it up. Now, after this, you have to start up here from the machine learning. You have to learn about the different algorithms, the different techniques which you are having up into the machine learning. And last, you need to develop up the skills of making up the presentations as well. That I would talk in the softer skills only. So these are all of the things which are actually required up for a data analyst. It is a complete roadmap which you can prefer. You can start with Python programming language, move on to data structures and algorithms. Then you can move to the libraries which you're having up here. Further, you can refer to the tool which is Tableau. Then move on to the statistics and probability, then SQL and then machine learning. Machine learning consists of the algorithms and the techniques which you are having in machine learning that are used in your data analysis. Only those are needed, not everything in machine learning. Okay. So, hope I am pretty much clear with this roadmap to you that how to start, where to start, and like what's the first step that you should take about. So these are 7 steps which you have to take, and after having these all the 7 steps, you will be very much ready to go for a data analyst role. Okay, now let me talk about the soft skills which are needed up. So soft skills is first for working out with the teams because there you do not have individual projects, you have to work up with a team. Problem framings, interviewing experts, collection data from groups, communicating results, partnering with clients. So these are some of the soft skills. Some general soft skills are needed, like making up the presentations you have to meet. You have to communicate your results to the stakeholders or to the management in such a way that they are able to understand whatever you are trying to communicate, because it might not be necessary that the person to whom you are communicating the results, that particular person is also belonging to this data analyst field, right? It not be necessary. A person who is in the management field, he must not be having that idea of a data analyst or how to do up understand these things. So you have to communicate up your results in such a way that the person, if he or she is not belonging to this data analyst field, and then as well that particular person is able to understand up your insights, understand up what you are actually trying to communicate. Okay, that's one of the very most needed skills which you need up here, right? Working up with the teams and collection data from groups, that are all the things which you might be pretty much clear with, right? So, hope I'm pretty much clear with this particular thing to you, that first of all, what does a data analyst do? Further, what are the skills needed for a data analyst? Third, what's the roadmap to a data analyst? And fourth, what are the softer skills needed? Right, so these are the things which you can prefer. And now if you want to start learning about the road data analyst, that about the complete data analyst, that how to go into field and how to start learning these things, so you can refer up to my channel only. So into my channel I just completed till SQL. Okay, right away Tableau is going on, SQL is completed, statistics and done, NumPy done, Python done, everything is done onto my channel. So if you want to start learning about this particular things like these all roadmaps, or these all skills which are needed for the data analyst, so you could prefer up my channel Fun with Data Science, and there you could start learning from the very starting. And links for as well all of the playlists are mentioned in the description, so you could go and prefer out any of the playlist according, but make sure that you're learning all of these things into the sequential manner which I had put it up here, because that's pretty much needed. Otherwise, if you learn first statistics and then you go on to NumPy pandas, it would be of no use to you, right? You won't understand that why if you are learning this. You would simply mug up and learn up the things, and you won't get the idea that actually in real why are you learning up these things. So that's one of the most important things that you have to follow up here while when you are moving towards the learning for the data analyst map. Okay, so hope I'm pretty much clear with all of these respective things. So I hope in this particular video you got up the idea that what is a data analyst, what does a data analyst do, what are the skills needed, what's the roadmap, and what are softer skills as well which are needed, and from where you could start learning all of those respective things. Right, so hope I'm pretty much clear with this. So this is all for this video. Till then, thank you and take care.